Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Welcome back to the Nest podcast. Wasn't the opening to season 2023 that we would have liked, but at least we gave North a big scare late and rebounded Drew Jones after a horrible second quarter. That was encouraging at least. Maybe that's something we didn't see enough of last season, but the second quarter fade out, well, there were memories there, unfortunately, or nightmares, I should say, of 2022.
Hey, Gabby. Yeah, well, it dragged me back in off the balcony at Marvel Stadium inside the ground because the second quarter left me pretty downtrodden. So I went outside to have a beer, and when we started whipping back into shape, the boys and I went back inside to watch the game properly and stop bitching about the Eagles outside. But yeah, the second quarter was pretty grim, and you had to sort of remind yourself that North did finish 18th last season. So yeah, disappointing, wasn't it, that we couldn't put it all together? But there were signs in the second half. The ball movement sort of got a bit less stagnant. That was what I found so disappointing in the second quarter, was that we just got back into that really slow ball movement, chipping around the back line, couldn't find a way to use the corridor or hit those little 45 kicks, and it just felt all so familiar. So that's disappointing, and Nick Larkey got hold of us again like he did at Marvel Stadium last season. So yeah, I've gone back and forth, Garby. I don't know about you with this result for a few days. Sometimes I've been really disappointed. Other times I thought, well, we still managed to fight our way back into the game. So I'm sort of a bit torn, but ultimately I think on paper, you lose to the Wooden Spooners from last season. That's a pretty disappointing start.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more positive than others. Disappointed that we've fallen apart for a quarter again. But I know it was Wooden Spooners from last year, but it was still under a new coach, Clarkson at home. They're going to be a lot better this season, a lot more competitive. We were disappointing overall, but I think for mine, we were coming off such a low base in that practice game against Adelaide, where I thought we were absolutely horrific, that for the majority of the game, we played better footy than, I think people are giving us credit for. And we started pretty well, fell apart for a quarter. And then the third and fourth, we were better than that. And we did link up a lot slicker than previously, and tried to move the ball in a more enterprising way. And in the end, it was a close game, which I thought it would be coming into the contest. A lot of we win is going to be really tight. We're not going to blow them away. We're not good enough for that yet. And if we lose, it'll be tight as well. And I think the second quarter has skewed the way fans have viewed the game. And I understand that, because you go into it with high expectations. And then the second quarter, you fall apart like that. It leads to a backlash. And that maybe is warranted. But I think taking a step back, I'm not as negative and downcast on the round one performance as some others, but I want to see four-quarter improvement from this week moving forward.
I thought we could have been further in front early, and we definitely had the better of North, and they looked a bit shaky. We probably could have put, a bit more of a gap between us. In the end, they led at quarter time.
The Oscar Allen miss.
Yeah, what was he thinking?
Oh, my Lord. I mean, it doesn't change the game, but it alters things slightly.
Yeah, I remember thinking at the time, I was like, at that stage, I thought we were looking good. Whether that halted our momentum, I don't know. But we should have been in front at quarter time, I thought. And then, it was only 4-1 in the second quarter. So as much as they dominated the second quarter, so like they didn't put 10 on us at least. So, yeah, in the end, we lose by 5 points. The contested ball numbers were pretty alarming. And people have spoken about it since, about the fact that we got beaten up around the contest. But to lose contested ball by 37, I think it ended up being, considering we've got, Kelly and Shuey and Sheed, Jimby was in there. Like you'd think it seemed like a decent contested ball side, but we got beaten up.
Yeah, the ruck's an issue though. See, that's a big
But
part of that.
they didn't have a ruckman though.
I know. It's an even bigger issue. It's an
Right.
even bigger issue.
Christian Cherry looked like he was going to tear us apart. He had a great first 15 minutes, and I feel sorry for him, does the Cindy. But, yeah, Charlie Comben, I mean, great. He's played 5 games.
Well, yeah, it's only round 1. We might say that a fair few times today, but yeah, Bailey's ready to step things up a little bit, and he's shown it in patches, and I think there is something there. But from this week, again, he's no Braden Preuss for the Giants, so he's up against a good ruckman in Matt Flynn, but it's hardly one of the glamours of the game. And it'll be Jake Riccardi probably pinch hitting unless he gets dropped, and if he gets dropped, then it's probably Harry Himmelberg pinch hitting. There's opportunity there to have a really big game and to bounce back for Bailey Williams and Callum Jamison if he keeps his spot, which he probably will. So you'd want to see an improved 4-quarter performance to give us a better chance because, that is our issue right now. And we're going to talk about the Giants in more detail later, but they're without Whitfield, Perryman, Kelly this week. Whitfield doesn't play in the middle, but Perryman and Kelly certainly do. So they're going to be very reliant on Cornelio, Tom Green, and Cullen Ward. And we've just got to even that part of the ground. We've got some massive improvements there after what happened against North. So it's probably Shuey, Kelly. I mean, it seems like a long shot that Yo will play. I think it's got to be Jai Cully time. He's got to come into the team. Sheed and Jinby can obviously go through there, but Jai Cully, if he's fit, has got to play because that's his modus operandi, and we need some more steel in the middle of the park.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a shame he didn't get up, but Brian Daniels clarified that he was a bit sore coming out of the practice games, so he wasn't quite ready to go for the game. So that sort of clarified that. Brady Hoff was the same illness, wasn't quite ready. So there's a couple of youngsters who can filter back through the team. We'll get a look at Elijah Hewitt soon, but probably not quite yet. Just on selection before we get to the votes, were you surprised that Witherden played?
Yeah, it's interesting on Witherden. Like, I get the feeling they've said, well, we brought him in for a reason, to be our exit man from defensive 50 and to improve our ball movement with his skills. So he's had a good preseason. Let's stick with that theory from round 1 and give him the confidence. Didn't have a great game. Defensively, he's got issues. We know that. And then that starts to erode his confidence maybe with his kicking, and he bites off a bit more than he can chew sometimes and leads to turnovers. He becomes a whipping boy. I'd like to see him give it another go. Like, don't just drop him after round 1, but maybe there's going to be some ruthlessness there and he's out for the Giants. What do you think?
Yeah, I watched him pretty closely just because we do seem to talk about him a lot. I thought physically he committed himself to contests pretty well. So I was okay with that. Like, he's not a great defender, but I thought his commitment to defending was all right. He stuffed up a kick early, and I think he sort of went back into his shell a little bit from then on. I didn't think it was his worst game. I was just not sure about the selection to start with. But maybe without Hoff, maybe they felt like they needed him back there. Was there anyone obvious that we were missing? Or maybe Yo playing that halfback role. I don't think he's the future. That was my issue.
Yeah. I think if he plays at his absolute best, he can be valuable for us, but we haven't seen enough of it now. I mean, he's the kind of player, unfortunately, Drew, that struggles in a bad team. Like, he's a bit of a luxury player.
Yeah.
And so when you're up against it, it's tough for him to execute his strengths. And I think that might be the crux of the issue with Witho at the moment. But I'd like to see him given more of a go. Liam Ryan's game was interesting. So we'll get to the Nest Medal votes in a moment. I thought he was our best. Now, I know that early on, he may not have been as astute defensively as we needed him to be, but we only get back into the game because of Liam Ryan. Like, for me, it's not a 5-point ball game unless Liam Ryan plays the way that he does. So far more glass half full on Liam than empty. When some people have been criticizing him, most praising, but that is the player I thought we would have this season, the game changer, all Australian that we've seen in the past.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. His spark allowed us to get back in the game. I think if we're hanging our hat on his defensive efforts, then we're probably looking at the wrong thing. We want him to be competent, front half defensively, but he's in the team to be a spark, fly for big marks, kick great goals. That's his modus operandi. So I thought he did that. So yeah, I loved his game, and if we're not going to be winning heaps of games, at least we can have fun watching Liam Ryan, right? Like it's not a bad thing.
No,
So
it's great.
Vote wise, he gets the 4.
Okay.
So who do you think gets 5?
Shuey.
And you think that's deserved?
Yeah, he was great in the middle. Really was. We just need him on ball at the moment. What with Yo out and with Nick Nat out, more importantly, so we're not getting first hands on it. We need his experience. So halfback, yep, it'll work at times, and you'll pretty swap with Jinby. But right now, we need him on the ball 70% of the time minimum, I reckon.
Yeah, I thought he was clearly our best player, and his commitment all day was running himself into the ground. I was sitting just above the benches. You could see he was absolutely gassed when he came off. So hopefully his body holds up. Gov gets to 3. I think he had something like 12 intercept possessions. Certainly there was a lot of supply because they were winning so much contested ball, but he did play well.
Yep.
Ruben Jimby gets to 2.
Nice.
I thought he was awesome on debut. He actually looks like he had a bit of drive in his legs, like a bit of gusto with the way that he played. A couple of times he was able to get into space and stretch those legs a bit. Big, long left foot kick, and 12 tackles on debut. He didn't let anyone down as an 18-year-old.
Yep.
Simo was giving him CBAs in the fourth quarter when the game was on the line. So a lot of faith shown in him.
Yeah, he was excellent. How do you rate the other debutants along with him? So we know about Jimby. We spoke about him last week. I mean, he's just already such an important part of our midfield group. He's a future captain, it looks like. I mean, it's crazy to say that one game in, but you've already got that idea in your mind about Ruben Jimby, the way in which he presents and talks and plays, more importantly. But what do you make of Jaden Hunt, Campbell Chesser and Noah Long?
Yeah, Chess couldn't get into the game.
No.
I find it hard to even judge his performance other than, was he a bit out of his depth because he just couldn't find a way to get into the game at all. So he ran hard, so that's better than nothing. And Noah Long has got a little spark about him. I can see why they were so keen to get him into the team, and he probably worked himself into it as the game went along. Tough position to play as an 18-year-old, that small forward role. And then Hunt gave us a little bit of dash. I probably would have liked to see the ball in his hands maybe a little bit more. I think he said 14 on debut. He looked all right for us. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, he's good, Hunt. He does traditionally struggle to get enough of the ball. That's the only knock on him. We know he's a lot of pace and really like what he's brought to the team. But yeah, even at Melbourne when they were flying, he's not a big ball winner. Like fantasy players will know he doesn't score. But we'd like to see him get a little bit more of the ball for us just because we need his run out of defense. Yeah, Chess really struggled, and Noah Long, you could see at times that it was a big step up for him, but he's chasing and his energy and his tackling, and it was great to see him get his goal. That was a nice moment. There were patches there. I wonder what they'll do with Chesser and Long this week. It wouldn't surprise if they were dropped, but then do you want to just dump them after 1 week? Especially with Chesser, who hasn't played a lot of footy. Yeah, you could go back to the waffle and build confidence, or you can just start adjusting at the top level when there's a lot of talent there. I mean, that'll be an interesting call.
Yeah, I'd like to see them both play again. Petruccelli sort of looming there as the sub. Not that Petruccelli did a lot when he came on. I'm honestly, I don't have much of a read on selection. I'm not sure what they're going to do. I mean, we know Yo has got to have a fitness test. I wonder if they name Yo in the 26 and test him on the Saturday. Like, who knows? Obviously, we know Nick Nat's not playing, so they've got to make that decision again with Jamison and Williams. Do you think starting with the 2 and then subbing 1 off, is that the way to go? Do you think, like Dom Sheed was taking centre bounce ruck contests at one stage when Bailey Williams was having a rest. Like, it's a funny situation we've got ourselves into where we've got so many tall forwards, yet none of them appear to be capable of being the second ruck.
Yeah. Well, they don't want to do it with Oscar at the moment. They want him to stay forward. And when we're behind in games, we need him to stay forward. So, yeah, it's probably the best way to do it at the moment. We need to start with both of them because one on their own isn't good enough. And then, yeah, if we're chasing a game, then it's a sensible move. But if we're ahead in a game, they probably won't do it because, you'll just need to control the ruck situation a little bit more potentially. So I think it's a game management type situation. Yeah, selection's going to be interesting. I mean, you've got a lot of players who ran around in the waffle and did okay, like Greg Clark and Connor West and Sammy Petreski-Seaton. I mean, there's no reason why he can't come into the team. Apparently, he was really good in the waffle. Does he come in for a Noah Long potentially? That's going to be interesting. The Jermaine Jones situation as well. I'd prefer JJ in a different position. I know he's playing small forward, kicked a nice goal, but I'd like him on the wing or halfback, or he plays halfback and then Jaden Hunt goes to a wing. I just feel like he was second half of the season, one of our shining lights in a very dismal end to the campaign. And now we've moved him away from that area. I don't know. I'm not really behind that move.
I don't mind him in halfback.
Or wing.
We were getting beaten a lot, and he was part of the back six. So it makes it hard to judge exactly defensively how he was going. But I liked his run off halfback. Yeah, I've always liked he's got a bit of mongrel about him. So I was happy to see him in the team. And maybe he's just there as a sort of Mr. Fix-It at the moment. We need him as a forward. You'd think Cully would come in, so they've got to find a spot for him if he's fit to go. Yeah, if he's fit. So yeah, selection will be interesting. Petreski-Seaton, like, do we do a Carlton and put him at halfback and see what he's got?
Yeah, well, he's been moved everywhere in his career, and it seems like he's going to be up forward now. I wouldn't mind him coming in to say, if they drop Noah Long, give him a rest after a week. He's had his taste. Sammy Petreski-Seaton comes in, but I'd like to see Jermaine Jones move to a wing or halfback and give us some more of that run. That's where he played really well last season. He's just not getting enough of the ball, and he came into the campaign with such confidence. Anyway, we do have options there. That is one of the benefits of this season. There are a number of players we can look at. And the changes will be intriguing. In terms of the guys that did play, and maybe the reaction, Drewy, let's go there, because it was scathing of the Eagles in the media, on the couch, Footy Classified. I found it odd only because it seems like the narrative was a bit outdated. It seems like everything they said was fine and fair, but it was like, well, hang on, we were saying that last season. Why haven't you moved it on a little bit? Why haven't you started to pinpoint other areas? The Adam Simpson talk, I think, is relevant, and we'll get on him in a moment. But I don't know. To me, it should have been more around players like an Andrew Gaff. Where's he at? Rather than the Eagles on the whole, which has been the discussion point for 12 months.
I think perhaps Victorian media might have just checked out a little bit last season, and then the easy thing for them to do is just to go back to the same chat about being fit enough and the rebuild and old players and blah blah blah. Yeah, I went back and listened to a little bit of it after we discussed it, and I think you're spot on. Particularly Classified, that seemed like a bit of a lazy segment to me. Kane Corns has been hammering away the fitness stuff, and for a while. The numbers are: we've only won 4 of our last 32 games since Josh Kennedy kicked that late goal against Richmond. One of the great finishes at Optus Stadium. 4 of 32.
Yeah, I mean, that is damning. So that gets us on to Adam Simpson then, Drew. So we know he's got a new deal. And I think this is a big talking point for today is where do we think it lies? Where do we think it ends up? What's your expectation or prediction for Adam Simpson and where it might go, or what the club should do based on what happens this season if it doesn't go well?
I think we got a really good look at what a difference a new coach can make to a team on the weekend. The four fresh coaches all got wins, and I couldn't help but feel watching Essendon. I know they only played Hawthorn, but there was just this renewed vibrancy, the way that the team played. The young guys looked good. Game plan was sort of refreshed. I was like, that's what you can get when you bring in a new coach. You get this little reset, things freshen up. So that's like if Adam Simpson was to go, there's a potential positive in that sense. And it's got nothing to do with what he has done and what he's achieved. And I think he's a really good coach. But, we just look stale. And I was really hoping to turn up on Saturday and watch a team that looked renewed, reinvigorated, refreshed game plan, something that played to our strengths and made our young players look good. That just didn't happen.
Yeah.
So if we got to the end of the season and we were still playing the same tired old brand, which the game has just moved past, then I think I would start to, and it would happen more and more as the season would go on. I would start to change my tune. I've been a pretty staunch Simpson defender, but I saw on the weekend what it looks like when you've got something new, and that probably made me think a little bit more about it. What about you?
My feeling is we truthfully don't know where it's all going to land, and round one has not given us a clear view just yet. Because it was one bad quarter, but it was a close game that was expected. It's very early days. I think we'll find out exactly where Simo lies and what the move should be in the next 2-3 months. Like if we're losing like we did last season, I'm sorry, but you cannot keep it going, because then the sign is that the players just aren't inspired enough. The fitness isn't an issue anymore. There's enough top level players, and the club simply are coming off a 2-win season, can't afford to do that again. So if it's going down the same path, I think you might as well say, look, it's just clear we need a change. And yes, we gave you the new contracts and we said you're the man for the rebuild, but we just cannot afford to lose the way in which we have again. Now, if we're 4-8 at the midway point of the season, and there's, in terms of our game style, strong signs of improvement, and there's been some narrow losses, you maybe go, okay, like they're clearly still playing for him. We're not going to play finals, but the improvement's there. He may not be the coach after this contract, but this is what we need, a steady head right now to get us through this. And there's drive there, and the game plan has changed, and the youngsters are coming through, and he's pumped up for it. All right, let's keep it going. We're lucky enough to have a quality coach in Adam Simpson to get us through a tough time at the football club. To me, it sits just like that. And I know he's got a long-term deal, and Trevor Nisbet said he's in for the long haul and all that, but no, we cannot handle what happened last season again. And if we are winless or have one win after 9-10 games, we'll make a change and get some fresh eyes in, because it's it can't carry on the way in which it did.
Yeah, we're not immune to losing and rebuilding, just like every club has to go through it. But you've still got to handle the rebuild in the right way, and you can't be non-competitive like we were last season. So we've got the Giants on Saturday, and then we've got Fremantle, the Demons, and Geelong in the next 3. And we play Richmond at the MCG, Port Adelaide away in the first 8 games. So there's some pretty tough games to come. I think it'd be pretty important for us to stick a win away on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
As a starting point. But those games against those better teams is going to be a really great measuring stick for Adam Simpson and the team. Can they stay competitive? Like, if we see beltings like we saw last year, that's a bad sign. For the last 32, coaches don't tend to survive that traditionally.
Yeah.
But usually the coach that gets sacked with that sort of form hasn't won a flag. So he does have a fair bit of currency. And so I'm really interested to see what's going to happen.
He needs a win. He wants one desperately. You can see it in his eye and the way in which he's talking. And there is an opportunity on Sunday. Giants are looking really good. Commentated their game on the weekend, and their fight back was fantastic. They were similar to us in the first half, not with it whatsoever, but then they got going. It was hot, so that allowed Adelaide to fade a bit more. I wonder how taxing that may be for them going into this week, playing in that heat, especially when they were down to one rotation at one stage, but two for the majority of the game. Will that be an impact? Perryman, Whitfield, Kelly are big losses. We just need to level things up on ball and at stoppages and clearances. I'd also like to see someone run with Finn Callaghan, Drewy. Like, he's only in his 7th game on the week coming into the weekend, but he can be a game changer for them, and he's going to float into the middle of the stoppages at times because they're going to need him to, and he can change games. He did that on the weekend. He's that good. I'd like to see like a Xavier O'Neill or a Campbell Chester, if he does play, given that role, run with Finn Callaghan, try get him the other way. It's not a full tagging job, but clamp down on him, because if we clamp down on him with the players they've got out, Kelly and Shuey and Jimby and Sheed and Cully, if he plays, they can hopefully level things up at stoppages and clearances, and that'll help us win the game.
Yeah, Callahan was good in the second half. Yeah, he was, when he had to start floating inside a bit more. Looks good in that wing role. Yeah, you'd think after the heat, maybe the emotion of a first up win, there might be a little opportunity for the Eagles to pounce on their home deck.
Yeah.
So O'Neill will be interesting whether they go with him again. Obviously, he played sort of a defensive midfield role. I noticed David King said in his means test on SEN on Monday with Jared Waitley that Simpson should drop a big name to make a statement. He said Andrew Gaff was that man.
Yeah, well, the watch on Gaffey will be really interesting. I mean, did he look any better to you on the weekend?
I feel like, he looks sort of slow and like he was sort of chasing tail all day.
Yeah.
He had 23. His possessions just don't mean much.
No.
Do they? I'm finding it harder to even talk about Gaffey. Like, I just think he's been so great for us.
Yeah.
He's just a shell.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, if he doesn't play a much better game this week, then he'll be out of the team. Like, you can't.
It helps Gaffey that Chessard just didn't get near it.
Yeah.
Like, he's not banging down the door to steal his wing roll, is he?
Yeah. Well, it's going to be an interesting one. I'm sure they'll be well aware of it. And they're probably hoping that, when he does get the ball, he can just keep us composed and hit up targets. And he did a little bit of that in the second half, but it's a long way off. And we're also judging him based on low expectations. Look, the Toby Green matchup will be interesting. Their forward line's very reliant on Green and Hogan, extremely. They've got Brent Daniels and Himmelberg and Riccardi are all solid players, but it's so Hogan and Green dependent in terms of their ability to win games this season. But they're two excellent players. People don't rate Hogan enough. He doesn't play, he misses a lot of games, but he's fantastic. So obviously Tommy B goes with him. Who gets Toby Green? For me at the moment, it's Shannon Hearn. Like, he's the perfect matchup, body size. Yeah, Toby up the ground might get him a little bit, but I just think we have to put Shannon Hearn to him. It's just that important. I know we went away from giving Shannon massive roles a year or two ago, but he's playing well enough. That's, for me, that's the matchup.
I actually love that so much.
Yeah.
The old tractor trying to stay with Toby Green, who was also on the weekend. And we know how good he is. I think, he's got to be the man almost. Who else would you even put on Green? Like, Cole's probably not strong enough.
Yeah, it'd be Cole or Duggan, but I don't think either one of them has the nous when Toby Green's in a marking contest to beat him. That's the issue. Like, they'll both compete. They're tough players, but Toby's so good in the air. Up the ground, they can run with him, and track him, but it's just when he gets, 30 meters out and he's able to float into areas and take grabs that you just probably need Shannon Hearn with him, that big body and that experience. So for me, it's a straightforward one. Hopefully they go that way. Sammy Taylor will get Oscar Allen Nick Haynes probably gets Jack Darling. There's opportunities there to score against them defensively. So the thing with the Giants, especially with Whitfield out, they've tried to play like this really quick running game out of defense, but Adelaide exploited them the other way in the first half, Rankin and Rochelle. So you can get them the other way. Like Lockie Ash will be someone they'll look at to run out of defensive 50. Isaac coming as well. The likes of Cripps and Ryan and Noah Long, if he plays again, or whoever else, you watch them and you run with them, but then you can really get them the other way. They will provide opportunities to burn them. And so I think Cripps and Ryan have got massive games coming up on Sunday.
Yeah, I think they all do, mate, to be honest.
Yeah.
You got any final thoughts ahead of Sunday?
Just desperate to see a win. Like I'm really nervous. Like I'm really nervous going into the game. I don't think we'll get smashed. I think it might be close, but I'm like, oh, this is not going to be much fun. I've got that feeling about it because we need to perform well. I'm dying for a win. The thought of being smashed is just horrific. There's opportunities there. I hope they make the right calls at match committee. All these things as a fan now, you're starting to like plead and pray that they get it all right. And I would just love to see a victory Sunday night over here in the East. It would be the perfect tonic.
Yeah, back on the home deck. Marvel Stadium's a bit of a different shape, much narrower grounds. But whatever we've been working on, game plan wise, it's going to work better for us on our home patch.
Yeah.
So eradicate that sloppiness in the second quarter, get back to winning the ball at the coalface. I'm sure that's going to be a massive focus this week. We're not losing contested ball by 37 again.
No.
So I'm sure it's going to be in the trenches sort of game, isn't it? It's going to be combative and hopefully we get the job done.
Yeah, and Tim Gelly's come out and said, we need to be a lot better in the contest. I need to be better. Looking for a big game from him. Dom Sheed as well. We just need to even it out with Tom Green and Keneally Owen Ward in there. And if we can push those three, because they're not going to have too many rotations on ball. So if we can just overwork those three and maybe use a couple of the extra options we have that they won't with their outs, yeah, we can win the game then. But these guys need to have big games. Tim Kelly needs a big game. So does Dom Sheed. Sure, we can do what he did again, Jinby again, but TK needs to stand up. All right. You're on massive money. They're down on ball. You need to have a Nest medal 3 minimum vote game, probably 4 or 5. That's how I'm feeling about Tim Kelly.
See him a bit more composed with ball in hand. And, a couple of times in his first season for us in the COVID year, he actually almost won us a couple of games off his own boot. Like he really did put the team on his shoulders at times. I'd like to see that again, as you say. Let's see him match the reputation and the pay packet that he's got for us. That'd be nice. Yeah. The longer this podcast's gone, the more confident I've become of victory. I've talked myself into it.
I've become more nervous. Drewy, thanks, mate. Good to talk Eagles with you.
Thanks,
please have a friggin' win. We're desperate for it on Sunday at Optus. Thanks for listening. Thanks for all your kind words and feedback, and go the Eagles on the weekend.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.